Welcome to Backstage with Richard Ridge. Stephen Sondheim and George Furth's groundbreaking musical Company is back on Broadway. This stunning new production is directed by Marianne Elliott, and my guests are two of the stars of the show. Please say hello to Rashidra Scott and Greg Hildreth, who play Susan and Peter.
Hello.
How are you two?
Good. How are you?
Well, where are you joining us from? Rashidra, I'll start with you. How are you and where are you?
I am good. I'm in my office in Jersey.
Okay, and you said you have wonky Wi-Fi every now and then, right?
Yes. It's terrible.
But it seems to be working today, and I'm thrilled about that.
Fingers crossed.
Greg, how are you and where are you, my friend?
I'm fine. I'm here in Brooklyn, New York. I have my coffee and my cat close by.
I love this. Now, have either of you been able to put the past 2 years into some kind of perspective?
What's that word? What's perspective? What?
I know, right? Rashidra, I'll start with you. Like, do you sit every now and then and say, what has gone on during these past 2 years?
Yes. I think what has gone on, I think where did the time go? It's like so much has changed, but nothing has changed all at the same time, good or bad. I know my pivot for the Broadway shutdown was voiceover land, thankfully. And now Greg hears me lament about it periodically, like even the last 2 nights, because our show was 2 hours and 45 minutes solid. So I'm getting home 11:45-ish sometimes at night. And then I'm like, great, I have 3 voiceover auditions to record because they came in as I was walking out of the door. So now I'm in that balance of my shutdown life and my life, which has been really fun. But yeah, it's been really fascinating to see how much we've all changed and grown and who we are now compared to who we were in the before times, as I call it. That's been really fun and really interesting to navigate.
Yeah. Now, Greg, for you.
Yeah, we've entered into some sort of very strange time warp, all of us. Like this group feels like really tight knit because we've survived this trauma together. And oftentimes I forget that we've only been open for a month, because also it's felt like we've been rehearsing this show for 3 years. So it's this really kind of double-handed experience where it's like it feels very, very new, and then also feels like the old gang is back together. It's strange and beautiful.
Now, during the pandemic, did you start your own company?
I did. I at the very beginning of the pandemic, I was sitting across the table from my girlfriend Marissa, and she said, "Okay, what do you need to get through this?" And I said, "Paints." And so she ordered me watercolors, and I started painting the different plants in my apartment. I started painting my cats, and then I was posting them on social media, and people started asking me to paint their animals. I did. You can tell your story.
Yeah.
I relationshiped into a dog, and then he quickly became my dog because I'm the best. And unfortunately, we did lose him last November, and I checked the mail one day, and there was a surprise Greg watercolor of our dog in the mail. I had already commissioned him to paint something for the dressing room, and then I got that.
That is amazing. Pets have been so wonderful for everybody during this pandemic and continue to be so. Everyone's had a whole different journey, either if you're living with somebody, a significant other, or if you're alone, if you live in an apartment or if you're in a house, everyone's had such a different experience during all of this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, we have to talk about, you two are back on Broadway in Company. The last time I saw the both of you was your opening night, which was so exciting. That gorgeous carpet outside. There were so many celebrities there. You had original cast members there that night. And how magical was that night for both of you finally? Rashidra.
I kept saying all night, it felt surreal. I couldn't believe that we were actually there. Yeah. All day I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop. We get daily COVID testing at our theater. So it wasn't until about let's say the curtain was 6 o'clock. I don't even remember. It wasn't until 5:55 that I finally was like, oh, this is happening. There were no positive cases today. Like we're actually doing this. And I think that's when it finally started settling in and I started accepting it. And then by the time we got to seeing you and everyone on the red carpet, it was just like, wow, so that just happened. Okay. Like usually openings are always really special because it's the time where the show finally gets officially turned over to us as the cast, and we are officially presenting our baby and opening it up to the world and the masses without the tinkering of the team. So there's already that excitement, but just after waiting 2 years to finally get there it's indescribable.
Yeah. Greg, for you.
Yeah. I mean, I completely agree. Really, really surreal, only because in the pre-pandemic, we had only done a handful of previews. And so to be at that night finally where we had been thinking about it, dreaming about it, trying to picture it or maybe on some level it like stopped picturing it for a very long time, feeling like it wasn't possible to have it finally arrive was really, really special. And, due to the circumstances of COVID we had a celebration after the show, which was really small and kind of just us, which was difficult and sad and strange and odd and all of those things, but also kind of felt meaningful in this time because typically at an opening night party, you don't see anybody that you worked on the show with. You're like walking around being like, who are these people? Why are they eating all of this food? And, to walk around and be like, oh, I know you, I worked on this thing with you. And to kind of be able to have meaningful interactions with people that you've spent this time with was pretty special.
Yeah.
See, that's what I loved that made your opening night so special. You were able to just be the company family at your opening night saying you all had like, oh my gosh, we made it. Like you could all like just have those emotions, cry, hold each other, saying, as opposed to just wandering through people waiting in line to get food at a buffet.
I never danced at an opening night party. We danced.
We danced.
What is it like living in the world of company? As you can tell behind me, I love this show. I've got the original poster. I've got your playbill. I've got pictures in this book that Lincoln Center gave me of unseen pictures on the original production. I have always loved this show. I mean, what's it like living in the world of this? Greg, I'll start with you.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's really meaningful, especially these days, given the passing of Steve, to be in this show and to kind of keep this light on. And, it's a show that I have loved for a very, very long time and, listened to the vinyl when I was a little kid and was obsessed with it. And so it's really, really meaningful. And the group that Marianne has assembled to work on it is extraordinary because everyone is like proper singers and actors. And it's just like a fascinating group of theater monsters. So to live among those people is really, really amazing.
Rashidra.
Yeah, it's much the same. For me, it's an eye-opening experience. I'm one of the least knowledgeable musical theater performers you will probably ever meet in your life. I don't know if that's good or bad. But I knew nothing about company before my audition. And I almost didn't audition for the show. It was from the urging of my friends. So to be coming in and not know anything about the show and to just have this be my deep dive into the magic of Sondheim, and just like Greg said, just the morning of my audition was the day that the press release came out with the cast announcement. And so I woke up and rolled over and checked BroadwayWorld and was like, oh my God, so many friends are going to be working together. That's amazing. All right, well, I'm probably not going to book it, but at least I'll get on casting's radar again. That'll be fine. And it was about 5 weeks before I actually heard and got my offer. And when my agent called to tell me, the first words out of my mouth were, wait, seriously? I've been checking the interwebs every day to wait for the press release to see who got it. What do you mean it's me? And so just going from that and walking in the room with so many friends, but people that I genuinely respect, who are just the best of what we do. And it's just such a special group, such special material. We got to opening night and the day of Steve's passing when we did the evening show. the lyrics, especially at the end of Company, the life is, love is, lots of, that was the moment that almost broke me. And just being a part of something that's such a celebration of New York, and probably hands down one of his best pieces of theater that he wrote, with this spectacular group of people under Marianne's direction and her hand. The woman is such a genius and so kind and giving and gracious. And I think that can be said of the entire group. And it's a really special experience.
Okay, how much time did you each get with Stephen Sondheim? Like, Greg, was he at rehearsals at all?
He was at rehearsal a lot more in the pre-pandemic time.
Yeah.
We didn't really see him in rehearsal this most recent go around. Yeah.
So what was it like having him there? Like when you walk in, like, oh my God, Stephen Sondheim's going to be at rehearsal today. And you're all like, what? Like, how do you prep yourself to like be in the room with the master?
You want to tell it?
No. I have a very bad habit, Richard, of not reading emails. And there was a day when he was visiting, and they gave us the full breakdown of, hey, Steve's dropping by. What we're going to show him a swath of the show. It's starting from page this. It's ending with page this. And I was like, cool. That doesn't even involve me, because I half read it because I'm a very bad student. And then I came to realize we took a break, and on the break I realized the page we were starting on was our first scene with Rashidra and I was like, oh, well, this obviously changes everything. And I went to the bathroom and had like a full panic attack. I like locked myself in the bathroom at 890 Broadway and like stared at myself in the mirror and had a stern talking to with myself about pulling it together. And, you know, it's stressful. He's like the best. But yeah, we survived.
We did. But I think also the best moment about that is that after all of that buildup, we were then sitting in the green room at 890 Broadway going over our scenes and our lines, because God forbid we screw up our scene. And it was like the second time we'd done it, not doing table work. The first time we were going to do it in front of anyone other than just Marianne and the team. And we're sitting in the green room going over our lines, and Nikki and Fitz were in the room going over their scene. And then we saw Steve walk by, and we were like, oh, he's not going to see us first. Okay, great. Yeah. Actually, I don't think we did our scene at all that day, because I think once he went in to Nikki and Fitz's rehearsal, they kind of scrapped the day for going over our stuff, and we put together a chunk of the show.
Yeah.
Ending starting right after us, I think, was what happened.
Yeah.
So sad.
That is amazing. But listen, you know, and that first performance back, I mean, you had Stephen Sondheim in the house that night. I mean, that was like your opening. I mean, how memorable was that first performance back? I mean, it was like a rock concert, a Broadway. I mean, from the second the lights went down.
Yeah.
I believe it or not, I'm speechless. Yeah. It was,
because I'm sure there's things that happen. You're like, I have to get through the show. I know these people are there. Like you said, you were shut down earlier after just a few previews. You're like, we have, you know, I'm sure there's so much stuff going through your mind at that time.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing going through was not to lose it. I think I went in and I was like, just know, if you look at me and there are tears in my eyes, this is probably when it's going to happen. Just let it happen.
Yeah.
And I somehow got through that moment, and it didn't happen, but it was a lot. It was overwhelming.
Yeah. I love the couplings in this production, because you two are like a married couple. I mean, I love watching the two of you together. Like, talk about working with Marianne Elliott on this. And I mean, she's one of the most sought after directors. She's done such a brilliant job on this. What was it like creating your couple together and working with her? Anybody can start.
Easy. Much easier than I built myself up to thinking it was going to be. I've been spoiled to mostly make a career of being able to just sing. I've always considered myself a singer, dancer, actress. So now I'm in this room and it's like, oh, objectives, acting beats. What? Easy. I mean, between Greg and Katrina and Marianne and the entire team, it could not have been any easier, any more collaborative. Just exciting. I think, Greg, you've said it best, where Marianne just has been very brilliant about letting us create the characters around who we just naturally are. And I always love to say, Greg and I did this industrial thing many, many eons ago, where we were cast by a mutual friend as the secondary characters who are the quirky couple who in the end up together. So when I actually booked it, I immediately messaged him and was like, hey, he was right. So it was very much just like coming into the room with a friend that I didn't really know, but I knew. And that's just what it's been the whole time. And I think that kind of developing friendship that we got to do a few years ago has really come in handy with just what the relationship is with Peter and Susan anyway. And this guy's an idiot, but like the most chill and best scene partner ever. So just easy and fun.
Yeah. Greg, for you, working with Marianne and just working with Rashidra.
Yeah, I mean, it's been so fun. Like Rashidra said, Marianne's not really there to coax out anything that's not already there. So that is kind of fun. She is like she's like a mom in the best way, as because she knows somehow exactly what everybody's individual needs are, or can read the room really well to see like, oh, Greg's having a tough day today, he might need a little bit of this, or like she's just so adept at running the room that it was just the loveliest. And in terms of like a relationship with Rashidra, like you are seeing on some level like a completely different show than, or at least for our scenes, probably for everybody, let's be honest, like different show than what you saw pre-pandemic. And being in touch with Rashidra and becoming closer to Rashidra in this time, checking in, sending stupid jokes back and forth. Like we kind of have been able to fast forward and create like a real relationship that we can then carry on stage with us, which is really kind of special. And you don't get that time ordinarily to kind of build something real like that.
Yeah.
I love it. What was it like walking back into the Jacobs again and going into your dressing rooms for the first time since the pandemic?
Oh my gosh, that was insane. I have a really cool story. I had I went because our fittings were at the theater. We were rehearsing elsewhere, and then I went for a fitting at the end of the day, and somehow that was the most emotional part for me, going back into the space. I had really kind of like nested in the room, and I hadn't gone back at all in between. And I went at the end of the day to the fitting, and I was like, oh, I'm just going to pop up and see what's still up there. And it was like Pompeii. Itai Benson is my dressing roommate, and we were in the middle of a Scrabble game that was still there and like under a layer of dust. And I had this piece of this cutting of a plant in water that was in a bottle that was still alive, that was like sitting in water, which I thought was pretty remarkable. And there was some whiskey left, so I was able to just sit there. I had a little nip of whiskey and kind of sat with this plant that was still alive. It was beautiful.
I love it.
Yeah.
Rashidra, for you.
It was very much like walking into a time capsule. My fitting was in the lower lobby one day at the end of the day in rehearsal, but I challenged myself. I did not let myself visit the dressing room. I wanted the first time I went to be when we were there for tech. And yeah, it was like walking into a newly clean, fresh aired time capsule. Just all of the things of, oh, I left this here. But also the reality of, oh, I probably shouldn't use this makeup that's been sitting here for 2 years and I need to clean my brushes. Oh, wait, no, I took my brushes home. I have no brushes. Okay. It's just trying to build that all back together. But I think my favorite part of the dressing room, other than the fact that I have like one of the best dressing roomies in Nikki Renee Daniels, we are facing 45th Street, so I can open our window and see my family from Ain't Too Proud right across the street. And so I missed that. I missed just sitting in the dressing room and having the window cracked on a warmish day and just hearing the buzz of the excitement of the audience filling into even the Imperial and just knowing what they're about to be in for while I'm preparing for what we're about to be in for and the ride that we're all about to take. It was fun.
It must be so cool, like to go through the stage door again and sign in. I mean, this is, not stuff you took for granted, but it's a ritual.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. And just the community, our people, going someplace where you feel like you belong to, like or having any place to go, somewhere exciting to go.
Now, whose dressing rooms are on which side of the theater? Who are you near? I mean, how is that like? Because, opening night, everybody would say, oh my God, I share, like Patty was like, oh my God, I'm next to Greg and Itai and Chris Fitzgerald. And she goes, it is wackadoo. So, I mean,
we're all insane over there in the best way.
So what side are you on, Greg?
So I'm on the clubhouse side, which is the short dressing room tower. So up one flight of stairs is Patty's room, and across from Patty's room is Patty's receiving room / bar. Back when we thought we could receive people post-show. So now it's just our bar. And then up a flight is me and Itai, and across from Itai and I is Chris Fitzgerald, and then that's it. And then everybody else is in the other tower. But it's a wild time. It's fun hearing Patty warm up. What was she singing the other day? And I just started bawling. She was singing "Anyone Can Whistle" when she was warming up the other day, and I was upstairs. I get struck by things like that.
That's amazing. Rashidra, who are you near?
I'm in the dressing room with Nikki.
Oh, fabulous.
There's Jen Samard, Tally and Matt Wall, Brittany Coleman, Anisha, Catherine Allison, and the wig room are on our floor. The rest of the guys and the rest of the covers are all up on, and Matt are like all up on 4 and 5. And we are also, my favorite is that Nikki and I are between Katrina and Sieber. Sieber's above us. So we either hear Katrina warming up below us or Sieber, I don't know what he's doing up there. Sometimes I'm like, is he watching something? Is he crying? Who's he screaming at? What's happening up there? Meanwhile, Nikki and I are just either having gospel hour in the dressing room or jamming out to Beyonce, because that's how we roll.
So I was going to ask you, what is your warm-up like? Like, you listen to all these incredible people in other dressing rooms. Like, oh my gosh. I mean, Greg, being next to Patty, and you just sit there like, I don't need to warm up. I just want to hear her,
Yeah.
What is your warm-up like, both of you? What do you do to prep yourself for a performance once you're in your dressing room?
Well, being next to Patty, I always feel like I'm not doing enough. Which is deeply troubling for me. But something that's really nice about working with British people is that they value a group physical warm-up. So we do a group physical warm-up every night before the show, which is really nice. Even if like you kind of half stretch, like just kind of coming together on the stage and like making eye contact with people before you get started is really valuable.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
But do you have a go-to song or like things you do before, like to prep yourself?
No, I don't warm up.
Fabulous. You're one of those great stars that does it. Fabulous.
No. You don't have it at 7:30.
Welcome to my world. God bless Marissa.
He does all his warming up at home before he goes, right?
That's right.
And the cats all run, right?
Yeah.
Rashidra, what do you and Nikki do? Like, what is your prep beforehand?
This Peloton bike that I'm staring at right now. Either that or just like a strength workout, either on the bike strength. I usually do my vocal warm up here at home. I'd rather annoy my neighbors than my theater mates. And just hanging out with Nikki and us just gabbing. Every once in a blue moon, I'll pop into the group warm up. I don't usually, because I usually do this warm up here. But somebody was dumb enough to make me fight captain. So part of my getting ready for the show is going down to watch the fight call and just kind of check in with Samard and Sieber and see, how'd you guys feel about yesterday? How's everybody feeling today? What do we need to know about? And then I just get to hang out with my best new gal pal, Nikki, in the dressing room.
I love it.
Wig calls and,
All right, we have to talk about the audiences at company because, like I said, I mean, every show has had this, like, with all these shows being back, everything is like people are so obsessed with all the shows they're going to. But there's something about company. Everyone's waited so long for this production to come to Broadway. And it's like, as soon as you walk into the theater, there's this buzz of just even that half hour, between 7:30, 8 o'clock. It's like just being there, listening to people say, oh my God, I drove in from here. I waited to see company. It's one of my favorite Sondheim shows. I mean, from the second that downbeat hits, I mean, the roar of thunder hits. Like, Talk about the audience's reaction to the show and why they love this show so much.
I mean, I think it's said all the time. It truly is a love letter to New York.
Yeah.
I think it's been really interesting and special to know that it was one of the last pieces that he wrote, that he saw before he passed. And just knowing that that's always there, knowing that we twice essentially got his seal of approval before he passed. You know, I remember having a conversation with Katrina and a couple other people the night that he passed, where it's just like, you know, we spent so much time stressing about, oh God, is he going to approve? Is he going to like it? You know, these updates, these changes, we know he liked it in London, but we're a whole new batch of people. What's going to happen? But just being able to go out there and have the confidence that he signed off on every single choice that every single one of us are making on that stage. And just having that confidence of being able to go out there. And I was thinking the other night how I've had friends in other shows who have lamented about how weird it is doing shows for masked audiences. Because especially when you have quiet, cerebral audiences, we can't see this. And when they're all processing it here quietly, it's just like, are they still with us? Hello? Do they like? Oh God, they don't like us. They don't love us. I quit. I just call the show now. But it's been so fascinating because even when they've been quiet, I personally have never felt like they're not with us.
Yeah.
That, like you said, that energy and that electric buzz is always there, which is just, it's so fun. I will say it carries me on days when I'm, let's be real, tired. The anxiety of COVID and performing in the times of COVID just is exhausting. And sometimes it's just like you've gotten through and expended so much energy just getting to places.
Yeah.
And then that curtain rises and it's like they're quiet, but they're still with us. Or, oh, the warmth and just the joy. And there's just like a buzzy, fuzzy feeling that happens when they're electric and talking. You're like, oh, they're with us. And this is going to be a really good one. It just feels extra special. And knowing that the audience has been waiting 2 years, just like we've been waiting 2 years to show it to them, is pretty spectacular.
Yeah. And there's just some things that only live theater can do, you know, like we've all exhausted streaming content and virtual Zoom readings or Zoom theater or whatever, but that stuff is all kind of like a vegan brunch in comparison to like the real eggs and real cheese and real bacon of just live theater, of sitting in the same room with strangers and having a shared experience. So yeah, our audiences have been really incredible. I've been super inspired too by like I see like, you know, young people, like 20-year-olds and teenagers, which is, I don't know, sometimes I worry about the state of the future of this art form, but like looking out into the house most days, I'm so inspired to see young people there.
Yeah. You know, you both have these wonderful careers. You know, Broadway debuts are really special. They only happen once. What do you each remember about your Broadway debuts? Rashidra, I'll start with you. How magical was that night?
I was next door at the Golden, so the same stage door. I remember.
It was Avenue Q.
Yes. I remember being terrified. I had no idea what I was walking into. I am a freak, and I booked my Broadway debut months after I'd officially moved to New York. I knew nothing. And I just had one of my dear friends' words in my head, which was, I love you. You're great. You can be a lot. So when you first get in a room, just sit back and observe and figure out where you're smart. You can figure out where you fit in. And so that's what I did. I just sat back and observed. I was terrible in Avenue Q. I will be the first to admit it. So it was a huge learning lesson for me. But I just remember I was excited and terrified because I had no idea what world I had just stepped into.
Yeah.
But good God, I'm 14 years later. I'm so glad I walked into it.
I saw you in that show. You were brilliant.
I'm sorry.
I love how people talk to themselves. I was terrible in that. You were incredible in that.
You're so sweet. Thank you.
No, I'm serious. Now, Greg, for you, it was Bloody Bloody, right?
It was Bloody Bloody Andrew Jackson at the Jacobs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Both. That's right.
Yeah. I've come back. I've come full circle. No, I just remember the thing being very special is, we were all, that group was like a ragtag group of downtown theater artists. So the fact that we had all made good and come uptown, we were, in our 20s, the majority of us were making our Broadway debuts, aside from maybe Christine Nielsen, and I think Ben Walker had done a Broadway show before that. But we just felt like the Muppets. I felt like we were like getting away with something, that someone was going to come in and just be like, this was a mistake. You guys have to leave. It felt like highway robbery, and it was really fun. And it was like a group of my friends. We had developed that show for 4 years and finally had come to Broadway. So it was really special.
Do you have the same dressing room that you had there, or?
No, I think Clay, Elder, and Manu are in my old dressing room in the other tower.
But you'd visit that dressing room like, this was mine first?
I do, yeah. I get wistful. I walk over. Well, this is where we used to keep, I don't know.
I love that. Walk in there saying,
yeah.
This was mine first. I love that.
What you guys did with it. Back in the day, we had...
I love that.
Yeah.
Finally, if you could sum up the best part of the experience of working on Company, what is it for each of you? Anybody can take this first.
That's a great question. Do you want to go first?
No. You're on.
All right. I mean, one of my favorite things about doing theater in general is community, and it is about the group and making something with a group. So I feel like that is. Wait, what was the question? The question was, what is your favorite thing in general about working on Company?
Yeah.
I think mine would be this group. And that, it's fun to work with people who are better than you too, because it makes you kind of up your game as well. And I do feel like I'm, like Rashidra said earlier, like surrounded by people who I genuinely have admired for years, and to learn from these people and to try to be as good as these people is a really fun challenge. And I just like being among them.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Rashidra, for you?
I think much of the same. It's just the embarrassment of riches of walking into that building, whether it's the rehearsal room or the theater, with this group of people. But I'll also say, I think being a part of the show and knowing that even if it's just 5 people, knowing that my being a part of the show is going to bring in people who know nothing about Sondheim, who know nothing about Company. My mom was up for Thanksgiving and I was like, so what'd you think of the show? She's like, it was different. You've never done anything like this before, but I liked it. And so now knowing that she's gone home to Virginia and she's been talking to my family about it. And so I'm sure at some point she's going to drag a whole bunch of family from Norfolk and Suffolk, Virginia up here. So that's also really special to know that even if it's only a handful of people, my being a part of this is going to open the doors to a bunch of other people being introduced to Company and this world, and how special it is to be able to do a show about New York, in New York, with all that we've gone through and all that we continue to go through, and knowing that the show and what we're going through and everything that we give can change, but still be honest and still be real to the show.
Yeah. So I love what both of you said, because we all remember the first time we saw a live theater event and you're like, oh my gosh, it's not a movie.
Right.
It's like people do this 8 times a week, and every show is different for all of you. It's like, it's you in the audience on a Tuesday night. It's not going to be the same at the Wednesday matinee or the Wednesday night. You take a whole different experience and you transform so many different people every time you do a show.
Right.
Yeah.
But I also, something, Rashidra, you said earlier, the anxiety of the COVID right now. It's like, you never know until almost 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock if you're actually all going to go on. you know, and there's that added, you know, there's that added pressure, but you all do what you do so well. I mean, this is what you all do. You make magic. You create. The arts have saved everybody from every pandemic. When we've gone through anything in the world years ago, it was always the arts that saved people. And, you know, I'm sure you both agree, the arts saved everybody during the big part of this pandemic.
Yeah.
If it was streaming or if people were creating art, you know, whatever, by putting a mask on and singing on, you know, with bad Wi-Fi or whatever, but it touched people, right?
Yeah.
Well, I have known you both since your debuts in New York. Like I said, you at Avenue Q, you at Bloody Bloody down at the Public. Thanks for joining me today at Broadway World.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks.
Well, this is great. Everybody, go see something live because the theater was one of the safest places to be. This is one thing we didn't pick up on.
Yes.
It's one of the safest places to be right now because the protocol that your producers are putting you through and the audiences too, right? It's one of the safest places to be. Would you agree?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Buy tickets to a Broadway show. Anyone.
Yes.
Come to a Broadway show. Like I said, everybody stay safe. We'll see you soon and go see Company.
I'd like to propose a toast. Everybody, roll!